Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. My name is Kate Lindsey, and my colleague Christian Brickhouse and I are going to be talking to you today about reconstructing velar plosives and labialized velar plosives in proto-Pahoturi River. So in this talk, you'll learn a little bit about the Pahoturi River language family, the distribution and behavior of velar plosives and labialized velar plosives, and even labialized plosives in this family as well as in surrounding families. And we'll be presenting some lexical comparative data to you today to argue for a reconstruction of these plosives in the Proto-Pahoturi River language. So before we get started, I want to let you know that this PDF that I am sharing and clicking on should be accessible to you as a registrant of the APLL conference. If you would like access to this PDF, there's embedded audio here. So with this PDF, if you download it, you should be able to click on these yellow icons and be able to hear all of the audio and data that we have for all of the languages. Just send me or Christian an email. Our email addresses are listed at the bottom here of this in the footnotes of the first page of the handout. And if you have any other questions that don't get answered during the Q&A period, or if you'd like to get in touch, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So let's get started with the question under discussion today. This work has to do with the Pahoturi River language family, which is a family level isolate spoken in the southern part of Papua New Guinea. There are at least 6 language varieties in this family. These are listed in Table 1. We have Idi, Tame, Ende, Kawam, Em, and Agob. Idi and Ende have the most work that has been done on them. The other 4 have just very basic cursory documentation, basic word lists, typological surveys, that kind of thing. But Idi and Ende are the 2 languages that we know the most about. So what interests us today is the fact that in this language family, all of the language varieties have velar stops. For example, in the word heart, all 6 of the languages have a word something like tikop or teacup. Let me play you the ende for heart.
Tikop.
And for Idi.
Teacup.
But what's interesting is that in 2 of these language varieties, where you find voiceless velar plosives k or voiced velars g, so you have k and g in Ende, Kawam, Em, and Agob. There are 2 language varieties where you find not unlabialized velar plosives, but labialized velar plosives. So in Idi and Tame, you have words like quich, where in Ende you would have kuch. I'll play those for you.
Quit. Quit. Quit.
Ende.
Good.
All right, so this holds not only for the voiceless velars, you find both voiceless velar plosives and labialized velar plosives in Idi and Tame, but also for the voiced set as well. And so our question today is, are the varieties that have the labiovelars, Idi and Tame, is this a conservative feature of these languages, or is it an innovative feature? And if it is innovative, can this be a result of language contact? So before we get into the reconstruction data, let me tell you a bit about the linguistic landscape of the area. Pahoturi River languages are spoken in southwest Papua New Guinea. I'm going to show you a map right here. And so it's down here in the southern part, right south of the Fly River. This is an incredibly multilingual area. The villages that are on this map that have been identified as primarily Pahoturi River speaking villages, such as Dimcc, where Dinikas Hoken has done her field work, Sibidiri, where Volker Gast has done his, or Limo Village, where I have done mine. These are primarily Pahoturi River speaking communities, but many other languages are spoken in these areas as well. You can see to the west are languages like Nen and Len. These are Yam languages. To the north, we have languages like Bitur, which is a Trans-New Guinea language. To the east, we have Wipi and Bine and Gizra, which are Eastern Transfly languages. And then even to the south, on the islands in the Torres Strait, you see Kalokawaya, which is a Pamanyungan language. It's unclear to what extent Pahoturi River peoples have had contact or exchanges with these other language groups. We know for sure that the Idi and Nan speaking communities have had a lot of interaction in Bamadaban and DMCC, but the rest of the language context surveying is still underway for this area. So what can I tell you about Pahoturi River? Well, it's considered a dialect continuum, and it has traditionally been divided into two subgroups. We have the Western languages, which include Idi and Tame, and the Eastern languages, which include Agob, Ende, and Kawam. And the major difference that interests us today is that the language varieties vary in their phonologies. The Western varieties have velar plosives as well as labialized velar plosives. Now, these labialized velars vary between a velar plosive with a secondary labial articulation like qua or gua, and a co-articulated labiovelar articulation, something more like ba or gba. I have two sound files here by an Idi speaker saying Titi Masa saying the word moon. The first one's going to sound more co-articulated, and the second one will sound labialized velar.
Park. Walk.
All right, so they're similar, but there's a great deal of variation by the speakers. Now, besides these labialized velar plosives, we have the typical non-labialized velar plosives found in all the varieties. What's interesting is that the Yam languages, which are spoken to the west, such as Nen, you can see these here. They also have labialized velar plosives, Gba and Gba, as well as the velar plosives Ga and Ka. Table 2 here kind of describes the phonemic inventories of the Southern New Guinea languages. We have the Yam languages, which have both velar plosives and labial velars. The Western Pahoturi have velar plosives and some kind of variation between labialized velars and labial velars, but the Eastern Pahoturi River languages only have the velar plosives. Now, let's take a look at the distribution of velars, labialized velars, and labial velars in the languages. Velar plosives are frequent in all language varieties in initial, medial, and final positions. You can see this in A and B in both tables 3 and 4. Table 3 has the Ende phonemes. Table 4 has the Idi phonemes. These are both come from brand new articles that were written about the phonetics of these languages in Southern New Guinea that just came out this year. The article on Idi by Denica Sokin and colleagues was part of a special issue on the phonetics of many languages in the Southern New Guinea area. Lots of great work. I highly recommend checking it out if you're interested in the phonetics of these types of languages. So what can you see here? Well, the velar phonemes, ka and ga, are very frequent in both of the languages. The labialized velars, though, are infrequent in the Western varieties. Not only are they much, much rarer, but you only find them in initial and intervocalic positions, and that's shown in C and D here. Now, it should be noted that the Eastern varieties do have sequences of a velar plosive, ka or ga, followed by a labiovelar glide, wa, but they are not considered phonemic in the languages as they are in the Western varieties. Okay. Right, now let's look at the comparative data that we have available for these languages. So during our fieldwork, Dinika, Sohokin, and I collected lexical data for all of the varieties in the Pahoturi River language family. And to do this, we used the Yam Finder word list. The Yam Finder word list is a list of 338 words that are relevant specifically to the region of southern New Guinea. The Yam Finder database has actually recently undergone a makeover. There's a new website, and in that database, you can explore not only Pahoturi River languages, but Yam languages and a whole bunch of languages across southern New Guinea in a really beautiful, beautiful way. And I believe it's yamfinder.com. But in our database of Pahoturi River, looking at the Yam Finder word list, we found 89 items that contained velars, ka, and ga. And when we looked across these items, what we found were 7 correspondence sets. And we predict that there would be an 8th correspondence set as well if we had more data. These sets, I want to tell you how they are distinguished. Let's look at this table here. The correspondence sets are not only distinguished by the qualities or features of the velar plosives. So you can see in sets 1, 3, and 5, you have the voiceless velar plosive ka. In 2, 4, and 6, you have the voiced velar plosive ga. And in sets 7 and 8, you have the labialized velars qua and gua. What also separates or distinguishes these correspondence sets is the quality of the vowel that follows the plosive. So in sets 1 and 2, we have our typical velar plosives followed by a rounded vowel, moko, moko, and for set 2, we don't have a cognate for the Western varieties, but it would sound something like gurem, which is the word for snake in M. In 3 and 4 are just like sets 1 and 2. We have the voiceless or the voiced velar plosives, but they're followed by unrounded vowels. So burke or burke, gub or gubba. Now, correspondence sets 5, 6, 7, and 8 are a little bit different in that while we still have voiceless and voiced velar plosives, we now see a difference between the two variety types in the rounding of the vowel. So in sets 5 and 6, we see a voiceless velar plosive or a voiced velar plosive. In the Western varieties, it's followed by an unrounded vowel, whereas in the Eastern varieties, it's followed by a rounded vowel. Teacup versus teacup, gudge versus goz. Finally, in correspondence sets 7 and 8, this is where we see the labialized velars. In the Western varieties, the labialized velars are always followed by an unrounded vowel. Quack, gwug, these are followed by unrounded vowels. Whereas in the Eastern varieties, these correspond with your more typical unlabialized velar plosives, always followed by a rounded vowel. So kok and gogo. Right. I'm going to let Christian take it from here to show how these 8 correspondence sets have allowed us to reconstruct the velar plosives for the family.
These data show an interesting gap. In all Pahoturi River languages, a plain velar plosive can be followed by either a round or unrounded vowel. But in languages with labialized velars, those sounds can only ever be followed by unrounded vowels. Given the distribution of plain velar plosives, we would expect the labialized velars to precede vowels of any roundedness, but we don't see that. Instead, we see a third pair of correspondence sets with the same vowel pattern as the labialized velars, but missing the labialization. This observation is what motivates our reconstruction. We proposed that proto-Pahoturi had 2 series of velar stops. One series are labialized velars, and the other are plain velars. In the proto-language, all 4 of these velars could be followed by a vowel of any roundedness, but the sequence was later reanalyzed. This reanalysis eliminated rounded vowels following labialized velars, resulting in the observed distribution gap. Specifically, we propose that the correspondence sets are the result of different resolutions to 4 patterns present in the proto-language. Pattern 1 occurs when a labialized velar precedes an unrounded vowel. Because of co-articulatory overlap, language learners may analyze the velar's labial feature as belonging to the vowel instead. This results in a diachronic shift, where labialized velars are lost before unrounded vowels, as the following vowel rounds. This shift occurred in all languages, but the 2 branches differ in how they resolve the potential creation of rounded vowels that are not part of their sound inventory. Western varieties merge the vowel with its nearest unrounded counterpart, while Eastern varieties merge the vowel back to its nearest rounded counterpart. We cover alternate hypotheses in our discussion of future directions. Pattern 2 occurs when adjacent segments both involve a labial articulation. This situation is unstable because language learners may misattribute the labialization of one segment as the result of co-articulation. They then hypercorrect, resulting in the diachronic loss of labialization for one of the 2 segments. Eastern and Western varieties resolve this differently, resulting in a split. For Western varieties, the labialization was attributed to the velar, and the following vowel lost its rounding. Eastern varieties attributed the labialization to the vowel, and lost its labialized velar before rounded vowels. Patterns 3 and 4 are straightforward. No changes occur when a plain velar precedes a vowel of any roundedness. Where we reconstruct labialized velars, they only survive in the case of pattern 2, and only in Western varieties. This is consistent with our data, and nicely accounts for the gap we observed. Labialized velars only precede unrounded vowels because they were the conditioning environment for the unrounding of following vowels. While our analysis accounts for the observed gap, it also raises new questions. Future work should investigate whether the predictions of our analysis are supported by additional data. Alternate hypotheses should also be explored, particularly where they may simplify the analysis or situate these correspondences within a wider pattern. Our rule-based analysis predicts that an intermediate stage occurred in proto-Pahoturi, where the proto-language had a phonemic rounded central vowel, which was then lost in every language. While this is possible, it seems unlikely. Part of the difficulty comes from our incomplete vowel reconstruction. While the consonants motivate reconstruction of the vowel's roundedness, the precise quality of this intermediate stage vowel is not yet known. Further reconstruction may reveal more likely phonemes for this intermediate stage, or find independent evidence for why this vowel may have been lost. An alternate solution to this problem is to take an optimality theoretic approach. Since the intermediate stage vowel is presumably not part of the typical sound inventory of these languages, we can assume some highly ranked rule that prohibits it. This would allow whatever change to the underlying form is necessary without making explicit predictions about how the surface form gets repaired, or positing an intermediate stage like we did with rules 3 and 5. Similarly, alternate analyses for the wider pattern are possible and being actively investigated. Speakers of Western varieties are geographically close to speakers of Yam languages. Both the Western Pahoturi River languages and the Yam languages exhibit labialized velars, and the labialized velars we see in Western Pahoturi River languages may instead be the result of language contact. How these language families are related and the extent to which they influence each other is the subject of ongoing investigation. The pattern investigated here may also be related to a pattern observed in Iti, where W and the rounded vowels seem to be in complementary distribution. Volker Gast suggests that the alternation is due to syllabification, where a phoneme is realized as W in onset positions, but a rounded vowel when serving as the nucleus. This seems similar to our first pattern, where the labial feature of the velar stop shifts to the following vowel. How these observations relate is an open question, but it may provide a clue into how the proto-language's phonology precipitated the changes we propose. Thank you.